Well, thank you. Appreciate everybody coming out on a hot September afternoon. I'm doing this on combinations, and as a former employee of mine once said, Mark, don't ever talk about design because you're terrible at it. I'm not really going to talk about design so much as give you some different thoughts on ways to look at plant combinations. I'm not going to necessarily say you should put this plant with this plant, but just how to evoke some different feelings, how to get some different combinations, different times of the year. It's real easy to do combinations when you're talking about spring and everything's in flower, but you're talking about late summer, and it cracks me up when I talk to my colleagues up north and they're talking about fall. We are nowhere near fall at this point. So some late summer combinations going into fall that will really kind of spice up what can be otherwise kind of, I don't want to say boring time of year, but not the peak time of year in a lot of cases. But it's, I don't know about you, I like to garden fall, winter, spring, summer at my home garden. The weeds sometimes grow a little bit. Things, but it's too hot, too many mosquitoes around my house. So I wait, and this is when I really start enjoying my own personal garden a lot, is as we start getting close to fall. So are we going to be able to move, or do I have to do it all from right here since they plugged in? Okay, we're going to go just right around the corner here. So the first thing, and this is kind of a no-brainer, but it's one that I really like, and that's combining plants to get that tropical feel. It's pretty easy to do where we are. It gets a little tougher when you get up farther north, but there's so many things that we can grow that really give you that kind of that tropical feel. This combination, you get great texture between the bananas, the pink fruited bananas, the cypress. You got gingers over there. Sago palm down there around the corner. We have a hardy schefflera. So there's a lot of these plants that you start putting them together and you can really get these great tropical looks. Elephant ears, things like that. So when you're doing that, one of the things you look for is that great big foliage. That's a must. That really lush look. It doesn't have to be something like a banana. You can use cannas for that. They do a great job. Kind of just get that big, bold, exuberant look. And to really make it work the best, if you have that big foliage, like an elephant ear or canna or a banana, to pair it with something that's got a finer texture, but still is enough bulk to hold its own so it doesn't get lost. You put something real fine next to this or small, it kind of gets lost. You don't really see it, but putting these things together, they really give you that kind of over-the-top tropical look. And another nice thing about these kind of plants is many of these things with these great big leaves and that are really kind of tropical looking, a lot of them are heavy drinkers. They like a lot of water. They don't want to sit in water. They don't want to have wet feet. But the more water you give them, the faster they grow. And the more fertilizer you give them, the bigger and faster they grow. So whether it's gingers or bananas or cypress, elephant ears, cannas, angel's trumpet, brugmansia, if you plant those together and make sure you keep those things watered, make sure you throw a little extra fertilizer on them, whether it's a liquid feed or a slow release, or it's just compost that you're putting down, nice rich compost that you're putting down on them every year, you can really get some amazing growth out of those. One of the things that I like to do, if you're really going for this look, you get some perennial plants like this out there, and then go to your big box store early in the spring, and they always get these big shipments of 10-inch foliage from down in Florida. You can get them dirt cheap, but you can get tropical bananas. You can get spathiphyllums, what's the common name?
Spathiphyllum, peace lily.
Peace lilies. Some of these plants like that, some palms, you can get them for really cheap, like $10 or something for that. You slap it in there around your other things, you get that water and fertilizer on it, it'll grow like mad, and then don't even bother trying to save it. Just chuck it in the compost pile. It only costs you $10 and you got a whole summer's worth of enjoyment out of that. You know, if you go to the movies, you spend more than $10 on one movie ticket for 2 hours. I don't know why people kill themselves trying to overwinter these plants. Just throw it out and buy a new one next year, unless you really have the space to bring it inside. You know, it's a great way to really add a lot of excitement to the garden. And you know, you just tuck them in one corner around a deck. You know, you go outside and you sit on your deck and drink your margaritas, and you know, surrounded by this tropical foliage. You kind of feel like you're in the islands or something. Thoughts, questions, issues with me telling you to throw away plants?
How about these? Do these survive very well in our winters here?
We can barely contain these things here. I mean, gingers spread like mad. I mean, they love it, so they grow up. This pink fruited banana is one of the hardiest ones. There's several bananas that you can grow, but the hardiest ones are this pink fruited one, Musa velutina, and Musa basjou, which is much bigger. I can point that out when we go around the backside of the perennial border. We'll see some huge ones there. They overwinter just fine. The cypress, again, yeah, that overwinters. I mean, you know, this was probably put in as one pot, I don't know, 2004. I don't know if it's been here since 2004, but yeah.
I think so.
So, yeah, I mean, it's
But they all spread, of course.
Well, they clump and get bigger and bigger and bigger because they're happy. So yeah,
cut back every fall? Or?
Yeah, cut them. We'll leave these up pretty late because, you know, they'll go buff color and look nice over the first half of the winter anyway. And then when we have time, we'll cut them back. Bananas are always a little tricky because if especially like Musa basjou, which is very, very hardy, we have a mild winter like last winter, they don't die back to the ground. The leaves will all die, but the growing point in here will stay alive, and they'll be even bigger the next year. I mean, get pretty darn huge. However, if you leave them up like that and it gets cold, if we really get cold and it kills them back, they turn into mush, and they are the most disgusting things to cut back. So you have to make that decision. Are you going to risk the mush and hopefully have bigger plants, or are you just going to cut them back and throw a little extra fertilizer on them and push them up? And it will stain everything you own if you cut them back. You'll get little tan splotches all over all your clothes. This is a combination I really like, and it's really, I want to emphasize that you got to think about all parts of the plant. It doesn't really look like a whole lot now. We're just starting to get color, but this Symphoricarpus, Pink Magic, has these pinkish purple fruits on there. And as we go into fall, those fruits will get brighter and brighter. The leaves will drop. This is a deciduous plant, so you'll just have these stems with fruits covering them. And then when you combine them with this Abelia, which is pretty much evergreen, you get, as we go into winter, you'll get more of these rosy tints to the foliage. You get the old calyces from the flowers, or these rosy pink, and they'll last for a really long time on the plant. And so you start getting this this color echo between these two. Usually when designers are talking about color echoes, they're talking about flowers. You know, it's all about the flowers to the designers. Well, this will carry you through much of the winter with these fruits and this foliage. So if you start looking at kind of these longer term seasonal things, or combinations when you're in the off season. So if you have hollies, winter berries with bright red fruits, and you combine them with something that's got really nice red bark, like one of the twiggy dogwoods, or something with some red in the foliage or red stems, you know, you get that fall into winter color echo, which is awfully nice. Because, like I said, spring, you know, you got lots flowering in the spring and early summer. It's the fall and into winter that you really have to work to get good color going. Thoughts on that? Concerns, questions? We do often give this plant away at our giveaway, if you're a member. I don't know if we're doing it this year, but it spreads, so we like to give it away. All right.
Well, how tall is that one, Jim?
This tall?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. You know, every once in a while, if it starts getting a little leggy, loose, open, we'll just come in and cut it back to the ground. We'll dig out the suckers. It's not hard to dig out. Dig out the suckers that are growing wild and kind of get it under control again. But it's nice because it gives you that kind of free-flowing look without becoming the huge haystack, you know, 8 feet tall like some older shrubs will. And same thing with this. We'll trim out some of these taller growing shoots because we want to keep this at a smaller size. But you know, it's nice nice during the winter. Other questions or thoughts?
You graft out abelia and get some new growth out of it?
Do we?
You split it.
Split it?
The abelia, yeah, or graft it.
We don't graft it. We stick cuttings of it if we want to.
You do?
Propagate it, yeah.
Okay.
This is a patented one, so you can't propagate it and sell it. From North Carolina, from Panoramic Farms. Another great way to combine plants is to look at form. You know, we have this whole walk up here is filled with weeping plants, which is probably not the most effective way of displaying weeping plants is next to other weeping plants, because you kind of get all the same thing. But when you take something like this Carpinus, that's very narrow, very straight up, and pair it with something like the Taxodium Cascade Falls, which goes up but then has this weeping character, it really shows off both of the plants to good effect. Now, you don't necessarily have to plant them 2 feet apart, maybe a little bit farther, but when you're looking at them, if you're looking and seeing this and then this behind it, it really shows off both the characters, and it softens this up a little bit. Using these really strictly fastigiate plants in the landscape can be tough unless you're, you know, showing off a corner or using it as a focal point. They can be really, they're exclamation points. They grab all your attention and focus the eye on. But if you back that with something that's weeping, it softens it, so it isn't quite the exclamation point, but it really still makes a great focal point for the garden. So I really like doing that. And if you have difference in texture like you have with these two, it adds to that as well. So you don't have to do it on a scale this big. It's the same idea as pairing a very spiky, upright perennial like say a iris with something that's looser and softer and flowing, so you get that contrast in textures. And when they're not flowering, you know, like irises are wont to do, you know, most of them flower for a very limited time, you still have that textural contrast, which really helps, and the form contrast as well. Thoughts? There are subtle things, but they really help. It's not the kind of thing, a lot of these, where people come out and say, wow, that's fantastic. But as your eye moves across the landscape, it works for your eye. Okay, I talked about fruit before, you know, and I said we're not going to concentrate on flowers, but a little bit of flowers are nice. Over there with the Symphoricarpus, talked about, you know, kind of complementary colors that are working with each other. Colors that echo. But here you have, you know, this Pyracantha and a butterfly bush. Get this great fall fruit on the Pyracantha, fantastic flowers on the butterfly bush, and they complement each other well. They're perfect color combinations. And these are ones that you can kind of plant close together because they have kind of a sprawly habit. So if one is growing through the other one, it's kind of nice. If this butterfly bush really grows into that Pyracantha, and you get these the purple and the gold together, it's really pretty attractive. Other nice thing is with something like the Pyracantha, it's flowering really before the buddleia gets going. So you have these white flowers in the spring, and then it slowly forms the fruit. And by midsummer, it's starting to show a little bit of color. You're getting lots of color from the butterfly bush. As you go into fall, late summer into fall, you're getting really good color from both. And then the Pyracantha will keep going into winter, until the cedar waxwings come through and take all the fruit. And your butterfly bush by that point will be done with, but you still have the structure of the pyracantha there. So it's a good way to combine plants. And again, you can do that with, you know, you take something like the beauty berries with those great purple fall flowers, fall fruits, combine them with a perennial, say, that's flowering late in the season, a perennial helianthus or perennial some other yellow aster type plant. You put those together and you've got those complementary colors, the gold and the purple, that really work well. You just have to be careful. You don't want like a really saturated purple like the pyracantha with a pale lemony yellow. You want something that's got some oomph to it. You know, if this were a much lighter lavender, it wouldn't work so well with this really great color. And you could just do fruiting plants. You put this pyracantha with that beauty berry, the calicarpa, and you get the purple fruits and the gold fruits together. It looks awfully nice. And the birds like it. Thoughts? Questions? Yeah.
Is there a drawer variety of the pyracantha?
I'm sorry?
Is there a drawer variety of the pyracantha?
There are, the question was, is there a dwarf variety of pyracantha? There are several dwarf varieties. I don't know if the gold ones, how many of the dwarf gold you can get, but you can get dwarf orange ones and dwarf red ones for sure. And there probably is a dwarf gold one as well. Pyracantha can have some issues with us. It's in the rose family, and a lot of plants in the rose family get fire blight and some other problems. This one has been pretty good for us. I'm seeing a few little bugs on the back side of the leaf there, but not too bad. We had another one that was just terrible, and we ripped it out because it was no good. So this one's been pretty good for us, and it is Sapphire Rouge is the trade name for it. Other thoughts? Anybody want to tell me they don't disagree with me completely?
The yellow one is Sapphire Rouge.
What's that?
The yellow one is Sapphire Rouge.
Yes.
If you want a similar color to that, although it's not the same timing as what the Ilex verticillata, and I forget there's a yellowy orange variety of that. Yeah,
there are a couple of the Ilex verticillata, the native deciduous hollies, that had that gold. They range from really good yellow gold to kind of a orangey gold, some apricots, and then all the way to the red. And those work well. They grow better. They have less disease problems. Only issue with those is you need a male to pollinate it, and the birds will get to them a little quicker than they will to this usually. But that's a good thing too.
But I found it looks good. I got that with a red one plus a beauty berry. It's pretty kind of a shocking trio, but
yeah, you know, I always figure if you really go all out with it and make it as shocking as you can, it looks good. It's when you kind of soft foot it and get a little bit bright and a little bit wimpy, it doesn't work. You gotta, the colors have to stand up to each other. Complementary colors with some fruits and things, but you can also do it with foliage. You know, we have a gold forsythia, and there are lots of gold leaf plants you can, you know, put in here. But this is nice because you get the gold flowers in the spring and then the gold foliage for the summer. And then paired with just a purple leaf barberry. And again, there are lots of purple leaf plants. Few of them that hold this color this well through our summers. But when you pair these together, they really make both of them shine. It's like we were talking about with the fruits. And so if you get these variegated plants, especially ones that have solid colored leaves, not not necessarily white edges to the leaves, and put them with either doing color echoes and getting some of those same colors, although you have to be careful with that because flowers, most gold flowers are really gold and make this look more chartreusey lime green. But when you put them up against something dark like this, you get really nice. This gets golder. If this were out and it's open, it would look a little more sickly than it does now. But here with the barberry, it really makes the colors pop a little bit more. Okay, well this is the white garden, so obviously we're doing a lot of combinations with white. This is one of the few spots where I'll talk about some annuals a little bit. Here we have some Angelonia and Euphorbia, a couple different Angelonias, a little Bacopa over there, all kind of with that white, which is the theme of the garden. So everything in here flowers more or less white or is variegated, so you're getting those color echoes that way. And that's a pretty easy way to do it, and can be really elegant. When you do an all white garden, it really becomes an elegant garden. And one of the nice things about a white garden, combining plants like that have white flowers, white in the foliage, white fruits even, is that they really look good in moonlight. You know, a lot of times they're called moonlight gardens, and if you work 9 to 5, which y'all may not, since y'all are here on a 1 o'clock on a Tuesday, but if that's when you're really enjoying your garden, is in the evenings. You know, if you have all these things that flower early in the day that don't do much, you know, you lose out on so much of the garden. But again, it's hot during the summers. You go out and it's a little cooler as the sun's going down, and you can really, those white flowers really pop in the garden. So it's a great way to enjoy the gardens. Now, if you're really good at this, you really work things out. I do know people who do things like have a blue spring garden. They have a lot of bulbs and early plant flowers that flower blue, and then later in the summer it shifts to a white garden, or they do blue and gold, so that they keep a monochromatic garden, but the color, that monochromatic color, changes as the season progresses. And that's if you can do 3 seasons, 3 different colors, you're doing really good. But 2 colors is not too bad. You get those cooler colors in the spring, and then warmer colors in the summer. And it's kind of a fun way to play with plants. But it's interesting. If you were to look at this Lycoris anywhere else in the garden, and I would ask you what color it was, you would say white. But with it here in the white garden by white plants, it looks a whole lot more yellow than it would out somewhere else. There you really get that yellow because it's white. Drives me crazy every year. I'm like, we really ought to move that. It's actually called albiflora, white flower, and that's the species name on it. And it doesn't look white in here with other white plants. All right, we're in the winter garden. I'm not really going to talk about winter plants so much as textures and how important textures are in the garden. Watch out in the beds. We have lots of bulbs and things in the beds. It'd actually be nice. I'd prefer people not to stand in the beds. Y'all on a path over there. You're okay. I know everybody wants the shade, but have things that are just starting to emerge from the ground, and so I'd like to stay off those. But textures are important all year round. That's what kind of gives your eye a rest as it moves across the garden. And especially if you're shade gardening, it's very important, although I'm going to talk about some non-shade gardening plants. But shade gardens, so much of the year it's green, and so using ferns and Asian Mayapples and things like that give you contrasting textures to look at. Really is restful for your eye. But this is one spot that I always love when I come around this corner. I always think it's fantastic, the textural contrast. This juniper had that little spiky and this really fine thread leaf of the nandina, more of a bold nandina, and then this large glossy leaf of the holly. And texture and the glossiness of the leaf really plays together well. You know, this leaf on this dogwood, this shrubby dogwood, and this holly are kind of the same size, but they have a much different feel, with your eyes going across, and that glossy real next to this thread leaf really works for me. But then as the season goes, when this new growth comes out in the spring, this thing is screaming yellow. Especially where it's in the sun. It's getting more and more shaded. But where it's in the sun, really bright gold, and it picks up the gold in this that splashed through this juniper really well, and kind of ties this all together in the spring when you get that really, really bright gold. But that texture is very important, and it's easy to do. Spiky and the kind of rounded habits, but this is I think this is about as good as you get with textural contrast. I guess we could have something with really huge leaves, but then when you take that in there, it's nice. We could have an elephant ear in here as well, and really get you all the textures. A lot of times, kind of playing off what I was just saying, a lot of times you think about that textural contrast in terms of big plants, big things, but even your ground covers. If you have a solid mass of one ground cover, that's great. I mean, that can be very good for the eye, that restful spot. That's what the lawn really serves as. Unless you have kids playing on your lawn, the only thing lawn is good for is serving as a resting spot for your eye. So everybody needs to reduce the amount of lawn they have and plant more real plants out there. But if you want something low maintenance, but you want to add some contrast, some nice combinations, you can do it with ground covers. This Pachysandra green sheen, which has a small leaf, really glossy dark green, with this Acorus ogon, which incidentally is for sale on the trailer cart. Didn't do that on purpose, I just realized that now. It's really nice. They'll kind of grow up together. Neither one is going to overpower the other. You got to be careful when you're talking about kind of spreading, ground covering plants, to make sure one isn't very aggressive and the other isn't, because then you're constantly kind of weeding out that more aggressive one. But with something like this, you get this combination, and really your best bet is to plant them separately like this and allow them to kind of commingle as they grow. And you wind up with this really nice texture, low maintenance. You basically don't have to do anything to this. You can set your lawnmower on high and late winter, go give it a haircut, the whole thing a haircut if you want. That'll keep it looking fresher, and then let it pop back up, and it looks fantastic that way. So you can think about that with other ground covers. You probably don't want to do it with English ivy, because that'll just scramble over everything. If you have vining plants, they will grow over other things, but if you have things that spread by underground rhizomes, they can commingle very well.
Is that shaded all the time?
This is shaded all the time. The sun kind of comes up over the backside over here, so yeah, this is shaded all the time. Pachysandra really wants shade. Acorus will grow in full sun, but you got to give it lots more moisture in full sun. It'll grow as a bog plant as well. You don't have to put it in ordinary soil, but you kind of see how dry things are back here. We're actually watering, which we don't do much, and this Acorus, people will tell you it's for wet soils, doing pretty well here because we're giving it enough shade. Talk about this kind of grouping here. We've got Cosmos, which kind of just seeds itself around in the border, but it's just really bright color, which can be a tough thing to work with in the landscape. And I really like how it's combined with the Pennisetum back here. I think that one's Tall Tales. I meant to check it, but didn't. That kind of cools it down, those white clusters. And it also, you get the more upright of the Cosmos, and the Pennisetum at this point of the year is kind of arching over, and it really kind of softens that gold. But then you move forward, and also softening it is this Dahlia, where you're getting the color echo, kind of a echo of the shape of the flower, but in a much more pastel type color. So it really kind of softens what could be pretty garish and grab all the attention out of here. This kind of combination helps soften it. This is probably not a good color combination. Sometimes things move around on their own and seed around, so the pink and the orange probably not great.
I think the Cosmos used to be down over here near the Miscanthus.
Yeah.
I remember that being
and
together.
And it still has some, but
I used to remember liking that quite a bit when I was with the Miscanthus.
What is that?
This is a Beschneria. Hesperala. I always call this Beschneria. Hesperala, Campanulata, or Parviflora.
The dahlia, is it part of the dahlia?
No.
It just came off the middle of it.
The dahlia is the burgundy-ish leaf.
Yeah, this is the dahlia leaf. This is the Hesperala leaf. It's one of the agaviesque, yucca-esque type plants. Okay. Sometimes good combinations aren't necessarily strictly for aesthetics, but they're plants that serve a certain a function. And we have two gardens here that are like this. We have the Paradise Garden, which has a lot of edibles. So we have Ziziphus jujubes growing up here. We have pomegranates, grapes, figs in the corner there, some herbs around here, and you know, putting plants together that you're going to use a certain way helps. I'm a big believer in putting. I like ornamental edibles. You know, figs as ornamental plants. I think they're gorgeous plants, and you spot them around. But if you want to actually produce fruit and bring it inside and deal with it, it's often easier if you put it all in kind of close proximity to each other. And the plants often look really, really good together. That's why herb gardens are so popular, because they look so good. They all have similar cultural requirements, or many of them do, and you can go out and gather your herbs in one spot. And same thing with ornamental edibles. If you put, you know, your blueberries with your figs and you know, maybe a ground cover of strawberries or a creeping raspberry, you have all these fruits going on in one spot, and they'll look great together as well. Now, if you get all one type, you can run into some problems. I was going to take you through the rose garden and say this is a bad combination. Roses are the worst companion plants for other roses, because you wind up with more diseases, more insects, more problems when you crowd disease-prone, insect-prone plants in one spot. And everybody does that with roses. We have a rose garden. Other people who grow roses tend to grow all their roses together, often in very straight rows and things like that. And it's the worst way you could grow a rose ever, and we all do it. So there you go. This is a butterfly garden, and so it's plants that butterflies can use, need. So you can see flowering plants, butterfly bushes, abelias, rudbeckias, goldenrod, all these things that butterflies love. Nectar plants, you can see butterfly on cue coming up on the butterfly bush. But it also combines plants like fennel and butterfly weed and plants and sassafras, plants that are larval foods for butterflies. I worked in retail years ago, and people would always come in and say they want a butterfly garden, and I'd show them some pretty flowering plants, and then I'd take them to some other plants for the butterflies to eat when they were not in their butterfly stage. You guys try to stay away from caterpillar, their larval stage. And once people realize I was talking about caterpillars, they say, "Oh, I don't want caterpillars. I don't want butterflies." So, well, buy these and give them to your neighbor then, because you got to have babies to have adult butterflies. So those make good combinations. And again, many of the butterfly plants all grow. You know, they grow in sun. There are a few that will grow in shade, but mostly in sun, so they combine well. And you can use some of the principles we were talking about to combine colors and looks. I mean, there's beauty berries. They're summer flowers. Butterflies love beauty berries flowers. You put those with gold flowering plants now, you can start getting those purple berries. The butterflies don't care about the berries, but they do care about the flowers during the summer. So that's a good way to combine your plants to good effect. Questions or thoughts about butterfly gardens?
Did you say there was a fennel?
Right here.
Right here?
Yep. It partially serves the same purpose, but you want that for tiger swallowtails, butterfly weed for monarchs. You know, if you really get into it, all these different plants. Sassafras has a particular food source for a larva. Maybe spice bush swallowtail. I don't know. You know, tulip poplar is a food source for some. There's a lot of different plants that you could do for butterflies. Does anybody need me to explain why you need baby butterflies for adult butterflies?
What's eating the knockout roses now?
I don't know what's eating them, but
the leaves.
The problem with the knockout, if you're seeing on knockouts and other roses, really congested growth, kind of deformed, congested growth. These little deformed branches coming out really red.
No, it's not the wilt.
That's
not rosette.
Rosette.
Yeah. No, they're just munching on the leaves, and they're like almost gone. But it still looks healthy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Could be one of a zillion things.
I just, if you knew off the top of your head.
No, I don't. Does anybody else know?
Japanese beetles are the biggie, but they're not really out now, are
Yeah,
they?
and they don't quite look like that when they eat them.
This is just munched.
Yeah.
Deer have eaten mine at home.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't have, no. I'm inside the belt line, but
I don't think that matters.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. I'm inside the belt line. I have deer in my yard. It's the first time ever I'm having to deal with deer. Just to mention texture again, there's a lot you can do for texture, and people talk about grassy plants and how to get that texture and things like that. You know, plants like asparagus, the ornamental asparaguses, or even really the culinary asparagus, incredible textural plants. When you back them with something with larger leaves like this, fantastic. Already really talked about that, but that is, you know, if you get something like this, you should really be thinking about where can I put it to best show off that texture and best create great texture with something else around it, because that's what you're growing this for, is this fantastic texture. And if you put it out in the open, it kind of gets lost. And so really this would be better nestled up by some other plants where you can really shows them off. So that just to show you where you could, how you could improve it. Because if you look at this where from a viewpoint where you're don't have that background, it almost disappears. And then if you just really struggle, coleus. Get all the coleus you can buy, jam them together. You can't make coleus look bad next to each other. They always look good. So that's kind of your last ditch effort for sun or shade. So I managed to do this in an hour, which is a feat for me.
thank you.
Any questions about this? Anything else? I won't guarantee I'll answer. I'll be like the rose and I'll say, I don't know. All right, well, thanks a lot. I hope y'all get out and look around a little bit. There's a lot going on right now. If you want to see us struggling with textural contrasts, in the far corner over there, we have our monocot garden. It was originally a grass garden. Do you know what kind of texture combinations you get with a grass garden? Not much. So we went to monocots. Grasses are monocots, but so are lilies and elephant ears and palms and cannas. So you can see how we tried to expand the palette of plants so that we did get some textural interest out there. That's a calibrachoa, kind of a mini peony. We get some of the overflow from the annual trials, or you know, to dress up this area while everything grows a little bit and fills in. All right, well, thank y'all very much for coming out on a hot day.
And thank you,
hope
Mark.
to see you next month with fall perennials. Is that right?
Yep.
Excellent.
The butterfly bush that wants some sun.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
The tree was nowhere near as big as it was when it was planted.
Which one?
The little guy. Oh, this tree.
Okay. Oh, they planted it not long ago?
Yeah, just a few years ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.